Hello, this is Doc Cummins at Decision Games, and we're going to take a first look at Battles in the East, Volume 2. Now, this has two battles from 1941 East Front, Uman Pocket and Guderian's final Blitzkrieg. So let's take a look at the map. I'm going to do Guderian's final Blitzkrieg first. And the first thing we notice about the map is that it's a little whitish. And that's because our map artist thought we should have a more wintry looking map for this snow-bound November-December battle. A couple things I'll point out. The objective hexes for the Germans have a German cross on them, and they are found along the north edge here and towards the east edge out here. So it looks like the Germans have a wide number of objectives to attempt to obtain over the course of the game. The red dashed line here along most of the middle is the start line for both sides. And so basically the Germans are trying to encircle Tula and get to the north end as well as to the east side before the Russian counterattack begins late in the game. On the other side is Uman Pocket. Back to our basic summer background color here. And here, the start line for the Germans is all around the edge here along the north and a little bit of the northeast side. Soviets are setting up all across the east and the south. The German objectives are across the middle, so here at Uman itself, and then along the south edge, the rail hexes leading off map and to the southwest. So that's a quick look at our map. I wanted to take a look at the Uman counters, and first thing we note here is the color coding. So each set of units is associated with a particular headquarters. So for instance, this headquarters here in yellow has command of the units here in yellow. So the way it works is that these units must be within the supply range of that headquarters in order to be in attack supply. And that applies to both the Germans and the Soviets. The Germans have some advantage in the range of their supply units. And also for the Soviets, their units must be within supply range for general supply. Now, general supply works at about half attack strength, plus only one attack can be made per turn per headquarters. German supply does not require going through their headquarters for general supply. Another thing I wanted to point out on the counters here is on the back side, you'll notice untried counters, and you've seen these before in other games. The interesting thing here is that each counter is actually represented by two units. And so you actually have three states for an untried counter to end up in after it's revealed. And I'll move over here to the system rules. So here's that same counter. There's its untried state, and then after entry into first combat, it could come out anywhere from the highest level is this two-step unit, or a one-step, slightly less strong unit, or a weak one-step unit. So those are the possibilities here. And the same is true in Guderian's final Blitzkrieg. I want to go back over to the counters here for a moment. And so we see on the counters themselves, some of the counters have a blue attack number, and this means they have armor, and they get a 1 right combat shift. Conversely, units that have this red defense strength number get a 1 left shift for anti-tank capability. An interesting thing to note here is the lack of any red defense numbers in the Russian units. And Uman Pocket is the very first game chronologically in the entire series, and so this is demonstrating the lack of anti-tank capability in the Russian army at this time. And you can contrast this with later games where you'll see more and more of both Russian as well as German having more anti-tank capability. Another thing to take a look at here is the integrity bonus for divisions and corps. You'll remember this from Panzergruppe Guderian and other games in the Panzergruppe Guderian series. So when units are stacked together or adjacent to each other, they get an integrity bonus. And the bonus itself can be found on the scenario display. So you look at this, you can see that for Uman Pocket, a Soviet mech corps can get a 1 right shift, but no shift for defense or overrun. And up here you can see the German mechanized units all get a 2 right, 2 left, 2 right shift. Now we go over to Guderian's final Blitzkrieg, which is 4 months later time-wise. Now both the mech corps as well as the guard cavalry corps can get the 1 right shift. Also, they can get a 1 left defense shift. And so this integrity bonus develops for the Soviets over the chronology of the series. So by the time we get to the 1944 and 45 scenarios, these shifts are up to the same level as the Germans. And conversely, the Germans, they tend to stay at this 2 level all the way to the last set in the 1945 before they start to erode. So take a look at a couple of the other charts. Now, both players in the game get an identical set of charts for both the system and the scenario. So each player gets a system chart that has the supply effects as well as the terrain effects. And then on the other side of that is the combat results and the combat shifts summary. So you see those. And then each player gets a scenario card for each game. So you have the scenario rules on one side, and then you also have the setup chart on the other side. So that's what you're getting with those charts. All right, so this has been a first look at Battles in the East, Volume 2, Uman Pocket and Guderian's Final Blitzkrieg. You can obtain a copy through decisiongames.com.